For the past year and a half, we've seen a pattern from the Biden administration of nominating ideological zealots to our courts. A moment ago, Ms. Abudu, in answering questions from Senator Lee, you said you understood the difference between an advocate and a judge. Well, I'm sure you do. You've never served as a judge. You've spent your entire life as an advocate. And as an advocate on the extreme left, there has been a pattern of nominee after nominee that have been extreme zealots, but I have to say your nomination, when I look at your record, I find deeply concerning. The last 3 years you've served at the Southern Poverty Law Center. The Southern Poverty Law Center is a hateful and extreme place. And their hate, among other things, has led to horrific violence. I'm speaking in particular about the 2012 shooting at the Family Research Council here in Washington. There, a gunman sought to make a political statement by shooting as many members of the Family Research Council as possible, and he sought to smear their faces with Chick-fil-A sandwiches after he murdered them. He was only stopped due to the heroic efforts of the Family Research Council employee, Leo Johnson, whose courage saved many lives that day. The evidence in the case indicated that the shooter had assembled his targets by visiting the Southern Poverty Law Center website of so-called hate groups, where the Southern Poverty Law Center equated the Family Research Council with true bigoted hate groups like the KKK and the Nazi Party. Do you agree with your employer that the Family Research Council is equivalent to the KKK or the Nazi Party?
Senator Cruz, I would first respectfully state that although, yes, I have spent a big chunk of my career as a civil rights lawyer, early on in my career, I was actually a staff attorney with the 11th Circuit. So I started my career and my understanding of the legal profession from the position of being and representing the court to some extent and making
Okay, but being a staff attorney is not a judge. So could you answer the question, please?
Well, in terms of the...
Do you agree with your employer that the Family Research Council is comparable to the Ku Klux Klan or the Nazi Party?
Senator, as I shared with your colleagues earlier, I can't comment to that. I'm in the legal department.
Well, why can't you? I'm asking if you agree with them. You work for them. That's what they say. Their hateful rhetoric led to an attempted murder. Do you agree with them? You went to work for them knowing that their hate had led to this violence. Do you agree with that or not?
I went to work for the SPLC to help lead its voting rights practice group, and that is
Do you agree with your employer?
Senator, again,
So you're going to refuse to answer that?
Senator, again, I can't speak to work that I did not do.
You can say whether you agree with it or not, correct?
I cannot speak to work, Senator Cruz, that I did not do.
Do you agree with the statement, the Family Research Council is equivalent to the Ku Klux Klan or the Nazi Party, yes or no?
I cannot speak to a statement wherein I played no role in the research or the writing or the publication because I did not, Senator Cruz, respectfully.
I didn't ask if you did it. You went to work for them. Do you agree with them? You're refusing to answer that. Let's move on. What is a white supremacist?
Senator, my general understanding is that a white supremacist is someone who hates people simply based on the color of their skin.
Okay, your current employer has labeled 3 members of this committee, myself, Senator Hawley, and Senator Blackburn, as white supremacists. Do you agree with that characterization?
Senator, I have never referred to you or any member of this committee.
Has the Southern Poverty Law Center done so?
I'm not familiar with the exhaustive list of policymakers that might have been researched and profiled by another department within the organization that I'm
How many members of the United States Senate do you believe are white supremacists?
Senator, again, sitting here before you, I would not call any single member of Congress.
But you're proud to work for an organization that does.
I'm proud to do voting rights work on behalf of an organization that provides pro bono counsel to individuals, especially low-income individuals.
So
living
let me
in the
ask you,
South.
how could anyone who is not on the radical left, how could someone who's pro-life, how could someone who's conservative, how can someone who's religious have any degree of confidence if they were to appear in a court with you as a judge? You've spent a lifetime working for groups that smear half this country as white supremacists and Klansmen. That is offensive. My dad came as an immigrant to this country from Cuba with nothing. That is hateful language. How could any litigant expect to get a fair shot if you were a judge, given your advocacy and history of extreme advocacy?
Because, Senator Cruz, my father came to this country with nothing in his pocket as well.
But why don't you give that grace to others?
I do, Senator. That's what my religious freedom, my free speech work, my voting rights work, my criminal justice work, Senator Cruz, all of that work that I've done represents my commitment to making sure that all people at least have equal access to justice and equal justice under law.
Thank you.
Congratulations. I want to just talk to you, at least initially, a little bit about the law. Ms. Boudou, what's the adequate and independent state grounds doctrine?
Thank you, Senator Kennedy.
You're welcome.
In my practice, I actually haven't had an opportunity to use that principle or doctrine, but my general understanding is that it speaks to the fact that if a federal court is able to resolve an issue based on state law grounds, then that is what should lead in terms of the court's ultimate decision.
Okay. What is the selective incorporation doctrine?
That also, in the voting rights or civil rights context, is a term that I haven't had to come across. But what I do know is that as a legal research and writer, and for sure confronting possibly new areas of law, I look very forward to doing my due diligence in terms of making sure I'm familiar with doctrines such as that one.
Do you know what it is?
So no, I'm not familiar with it sitting here
Selective
today.
incorporation doctrine? Okay. Well, you're going to see a lot of it if you're confirmed on the 11th Circuit. Can Congress pass any law that the Constitution doesn't prohibit?
Based on the frame of your question, I would say yes, that sounds right.
So you think Congress has plenary power?
Well, I would first look to what the Supreme Court has said in terms of following precedent.
No, but I'm interested, if I could, Counselor, in your opinion. Does the United States Congress have delegated powers or plenary power?
Well, the Congress has both, I would say, from my general understanding. Again, it depends on the context and the issue, but
Okay.
it is.
Can you explain the difference to me between strict scrutiny and intermediate scrutiny?
Senator, strict scrutiny is the highest level of scrutiny that's often applied in constitutional cases.
What's the definition? I'm sorry, go ahead. Excuse me.
So it requires that a state, when enacting a law or regulation, have a compelling governmental interest for doing so, and that the law is narrowly tailored to achieve that interest.
Okay.
And then intermediate, did you say?
Yeah.
Okay, so intermediate speaks to the issue of having a substantial interest or that is, or an important governmental interest that is substantially related.
Okay. Do you believe that the meaning of the Constitution is immutable, or does it change over time?
Senator, I would say that the Supreme Court in some cases has analyzed that issue, and the response really does depend on the context and the issue. But what the court does or has done in its approach, of course, is look to the plain meaning of a statute or of the Constitution, because that really is where the inquiry should start. And if the language is plain, then that is where the inquiry can end.
Okay, thank you for that. You were involved in a 2021 report from the Southern Poverty Law Center about voting in Louisiana. Did you say, quote, racist white Southerners, close quote, and, quote, hostile white voters and governmental officials in Louisiana continue to make local polling places and early voting locations threatening spaces for black voters? Did you say that?
Senator, I do not believe that I said that. I haven't read that publication in some time.
Will you help write it?
I helped to draft the publication and approved it, but I'm not familiar with that language.
You don't? Okay. In that same report, did you say, well, tell me where in Louisiana local polling places and early voting locations are threatening African-American voters? You said it, so which polling places?
So again, Senator, obviously I don't have that report in front of me to be able to read and remind myself of the examples that might have been shared. But what I can say is that Louisiana...
Let me cut you off because I'm going to run out of time, Counselor. Let me ask you one more. In August 2021, we're not talking 20 years ago, we're talking 2021, you were involved in another report by the SPLC. And you said that voter identification, photo ID to vote, is burdensome and does not serve any legitimate state interest. Do you really believe that?
Senator, identification for voting is something...
Yes, but first, do you really believe that? You said it. You meant it?
The Supreme Court in Crawford v. Marion County has already upheld voter ID laws as per se constitutional.
Yeah, but you said it didn't serve any legitimate state interest. Do you believe that?
Again, Senator, without that language in front of me, it's hard to understand the context.
You said it. Here it is, August 2021.
Well, there are cases...
I'm just asking you to explain to me why having to prove you are who you say you are before you vote doesn't serve... You said it doesn't serve any legitimate state interest. I'm just asking you to explain that statement to me.
I understand, Senator Kennedy, and again, without being able to see the language that appears before and after, it's hard for the context.
You deny that you said it?
I can't say that I haven't seen that language in front of me, but what I do know is that there have been voter ID cases in which courts have found that
I'm familiar with the case law, but I'm asking what you think, because you may be on the 11th Circuit. Do you believe that voter ID is inappropriate?
My commitment is to uphold the Supreme Court's decision in Crawford v. Marion
I know, but
County.
here you said it was inappropriate. You deny that?
Well, again, Senator, it would be helpful to know if that section of the report also cites to cases in which federal courts have found that certain voter ID laws do pose an burden on voters.
Thank you, Senator Kennedy. Senator Booker.
Gõ cửa trái tim van anh được vào, dù tình xót đau chung thân huyết đau, ngủ vùi với chim bao nỗi niềm mắt xanh xao, nhưng em vẫn ngóng tim anh mở cửa. Gõ cửa trái tim sao anh hững hờ, ngõ hồn tái tê năm canh thẫn thờ, nhện lòng mắc răng tơ để một môi bơ vơ, khi không anh nhốt em trong đợi chờ. mà anh không chút oán than. Em buồn lang thang gõ cửa trái tim, nghe xa nghìn trùng đèn mờ hắt hiu cô đơn tận cùng, đàn lỡ phím sai cung, tình này cũng mông lung, tìm anh ai khóa để em lạnh lùng. Gõ cửa trái tim van anh được vào, dù tình xót đau chung thân huyết đau, ngủ vùi với chim bao nỗi niềm mắt xanh xao, nhưng em vẫn ngóng tim anh mở cửa. Gõ cửa trái tim sao anh hững hờ, ngõ hồn tái tê năm canh thẫn thờ, nhện lòng mắc răng tơ để một mối bơ vơ, khi không anh nhốt em trong đợi chờ. Anh bằng vàng nên tiếng kêu nghe bè bà, để em gõ cửa miên man mà anh không chút oán than. Em buồn lang thang gõ cửa trái tim, nghe xa nghìn trùng đèn mờ hắt hiu cô đơn tận cùng, đàn lỡ phím sai cung, tình này cũng mông lung, tìm anh ai khóa để em lạnh lùng. Đàn lỡ phím sai cung, tình này cũng